And in this episode of the Happy Hustle Podcast, we have on Miss Candy Valentino. And she's here to talk to us today about the wealth habits you need to learn to take advantage of an amazingly financially abundant life. We're going to be diving into this episode of the Happy Hustle Podcast. Do you want blissful balance in your personal and professional life? Great. What's up, guys? My name is Kerry Jack, and I want to help you happy hustle a life you love, one full of passion, purpose, and positive impact. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, a professional model / actor, a digital marketing specialist, a podcast host, author, a biohacker, an eco-warrior, a martial artist, a hippie cowboy, and a humanitarian. My goal is to educate, inspire, and entertain you to live a life of passion, purpose, and positive impact. It is time to happy hustle your dream reality. Yee! All right, Candy Valentino, welcome to the Happy Hustle Podcast, my friend. I am super excited to rock the mic with you.
I am so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. I mean, you're a real estate investor. You're a serial entrepreneur. You're a speaker. You're a podcaster. You're a best-selling author. But you're a happy hustler, girl, through and through. I mean, you got it going on. And I'm really excited to share with the happy hustlers your wealth habits to achieve that financial abundance and impact in the process. But before we get into all that good stuff, Candy, what's something interesting about yourself that not too many people know?
So I'm really not that interesting, but I'll give you something that's maybe unusual. I learned to drive a car when I was 7. So that's a very unusual thing. My dad was a mechanic. Most people know my backstory by this point. And so I learned to drive a car when I was 7 years old. And that's definitely unusual. Don't know if it's interesting, but it's unusual.
Yeah, that's really, unusual and interesting. Fun fact, my dad is also a mechanic, had a mechanic business. We have a couple things in common when I was doing a little research. Also, we both dove deep into Tony Robbins' audiobooks early on in our childhood, which sculpted our path, I'm sure, greatly. But, I want to just stay there just for a second. With the backstory, you come from very humble roots. And by humble, I just want to tell the happy hustlers, you grew up in a trailer on government assistance in a very small town. And that, from where you started to where you are now is such an inspiring journey. And it's one that I know had its adversities. It was not always peaches and cream for Candy, right? And nor for me either. I'm curious, around the most pivotal point, it sounded like it was in your early teens when you really started to get into business and entrepreneurship. What do you remember most about that pivot from poverty to, okay, I can do what I want and I can make it happen? What do you remember most about that transitional period?
Yeah, so I remember most that, my view of the world, we're only exposed to what we know, right? I had teenage parents. Life was more about survival than it was intention. Growing up in a trailer on government assistance, not really having conversations about money unless it was something that we couldn't do or afford or have. And so the moment was truly when I was 15 and hearing a Tony Robbins infomercial. And I don't tell the story a lot. I think a few people know it if they're in the Tony space, but I don't tell it a lot. But it was just hearing him talk on a it was the late 90s, mid 90s at that point, 1995, 96, somewhere in that range. And just hearing that whether it was him saying it or it was what I felt, I still never was able to distinguish the difference. But what I felt in the moment is that we're not a product of our circumstances, that we do get to choose. We can't choose what was done to us. We can't choose our circumstances or where we are in this point right now, but we get to choose what's next. And it was that moment that it just resonated. That's the only thing I can explain. It was just like, oh my gosh, that's right. I had no real reason to believe that with my external world, but my internal world told me everything about that was correct. And so I just decided, as opposed to seeing the proof of why everyone says you can't do something or you're not capable or who do you think you are, I just chose in that moment to look for something different. Let's look for the people who have done it. Let's look for the names on the list that have accomplished, even with adversity. And I started setting my sights on the very few people that I was aware of. Like, I remember one of the very first people was Oprah Winfrey, because I had heard at the time that, like, you know, she had a very abused, she was abused as a child, you know, suffered from sexual abuse, a lot of similar things. And I was like, well, if she just went and did all of this great stuff, like, at least there's one person that I was able to know that was on talk shows at the time that did something, even though she had had great challenge in her life. So I just started viewing those people and realizing that someone's got to do it. So why not you? And I think that it was that one shift in the way that I viewed it really changed everything, and it really made everything then possible.
Wow. I mean, that's powerful. Like, it all starts in the mindset, right? And I think for me too, just knowing, well, okay, someone out there has achieved the goal that I desire. Why not me? Why can't I recreate that success? And, you know, with technology, these mentors are not very far away. Like, you can nowadays, a little easier than when, you know, you were growing up, but like, you know, the audio tapes, those were so pivotal. I would listen to Zig Ziglar every single time I got in my vehicle to just, you know, Zig, like, what a legend.
Oh, yeah.
But I would listen to Zig all the time, every day. We called it Auto University. Just listen to Zig and Tony and some of these greats. And nowadays you can listen to their podcasts, read their books. But if you are stuck right now, seek clarity from someone who has what you desire and reverse engineer their success in the process. Now, I'm curious, you know, for you, you started your first business really before you could even drink. And I love that, you know, as a frame of reference. Tell us just quickly, and I know I don't usually go deep into it, but into the backstory piece, but I want to hear your first business and then kind of what got you into real estate, because I know, like, real estate is, you know, one of the great ways to achieve wealth. So talk to us about that first business and then how you transitioned into real estate.
Well, the first business really came about because I wanted to be the first person in my family that went to college, because my parents didn't graduate high school. My dad had a 9th grade education. My mom had to drop out of 10th grade to have me. So, you know, and nobody on both sides had a college education at that point. So I was thinking, this will be great. I'll be the first. And I realized in my very first semester of classes, as I was taking a business class and asking my professor, like, you know, oh, this is so cool. You know, what business did you start? What company did you build? And he said, oh, I haven't done that. I'm a teacher here. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I was so let down, and I couldn't just kind of like balance in my mind the fact that someone's going to be teaching me about business. I just spent my whole childhood inside of my dad's business every single day of my life, because I got dropped off at his garage from the time I was 5 till I was 16, and learned so much about entrepreneurship and the struggle and what it really takes to build. And so there was just something that shifted, and I was like, okay, this isn't for me. I'm going to go build a business. And I saw my dad, you know, we either have an example of what we should do in life, or we have the antithesis. We have the example of what not to do, or what we maybe don't want in our life. And so I saw my dad miss out on so much, like was never able to be around for anything that I did in school or just at home, because he was working all the time. Because even though we think he had a business, he actually didn't. He had a job. He was self-employed. And so often I see people that think they're a business owner and they think they're an entrepreneur, but really they just have a glorified job that they have to show up to every day, because they haven't built the machine that will generate income and generate revenue, even without them trading time for it. So I realized that I don't want to do that. So the opposite of that would be to create a big team and have a big business. So that's what I sought out to do. And it was really through just kind of like, you know, me being and taking a look at what doesn't exist in our area, what exists in other area, finding a market need, and then building that business. Because I decided that rather than working forever, you know, I know this is probably an unusual thing, like driving a car at 7, but when I was 19, I decided that I just want to do what I need to do for the next 20 years, and I want to retire by the time I'm 40. Like, that was the goal I had in my mind starting the very first business. So I built it with the end in mind. I built it to exit, from the name to the logo to the way that I designed the company, the infrastructure, the organization. Like, everything was built that it was not me. It was an extension of me. It was its own entity that I could then sell and have an asset. And what really got me into real estate investing was books, because I don't have a degree or some fancy education either. I just read a lot of books, listened to a lot of information, and basically just got what was available to me, which back then was a $20 book from The Millionaire Next Door and Think and Grow Rich, and all of these books that were available then, which still have stood the test of time because the information is timeless because they're so good. Those were some of the things that I did. When I wanted to grow my company, I only knew a few people at that point that had done it. So I found a book on it. From Good to Great was one of the books that was instrumental in my company. I studied the Ritz-Carlton brands. I studied Starbucks. I studied like a nerd all of these companies that did what I wanted to do. So then I could just see how to apply it. So I think the information, I always say it's proof, right? Proof is all around us. We have people that are in our lives that maybe tell us why we can't, why we shouldn't, who do we think we are. And sometimes we use that as proof. But if you want to find proof that you can, there's people all around you that have also done it with less resources, less education, less connections, and more challenges. So it's all what we focus on. That's why mindset isn't the whole piece, but it's the first piece. Because if we talk about the tactics and the strategies, but you don't have the mindset right, we're going to be swimming uphill together. If we get the mindset right, all the tactics and strategies are now easier to apply and implement, because that's what's going to change your life. That's what's going to change your finances. That's what's going to change your business. It's not some idea that you get by listening to the podcast. It's what you actually implement and execute after you get the idea and you shut off the podcast. That's what's going to change your life. And that's what most people miss.
Amen. Amen, sister. I appreciate, that blunt, just give it to you straight mentality. And you mentioned something that I want to double back on, which is self-employed versus business owner. And this is huge because I actually had to make this realization for my own business, my own self. Like, there's a lot of happy hustlers out there, I'm sure, who have built a job for themselves and they're self-employed. I'd like for you to just maybe talk to those happy hustlers right now, and maybe someone who's even they have a job, but then they want to have a business. Like, what is you mentioned the system, like how do I actually get away from trading time for money and leverage a system? I'm reading Process, the part of the EOS library, which is all about, I'm sure the entrepreneurial operating system and Gino's whole model, but this is like so important of a concept that I have to double back here and just kind of extract some of your wisdom. How did you go from self-employed to business owner, or were you ever self-employed? And did you have to? No, you just went right to business owner. Okay. So someone who is self-employed and wants to go to business owner, tell us, how do we do that, Candy?
So when I exited my last company in 2019, for so long, for literally from 1999 to 2019, 20 years, I was behind the scene, just building a business, building a brand, building a company, because the goal is to have something that's scalable, sustainable, and sellable. Those are the three keys to having something that's an actual business. And then obviously solvency and profitability and so many pieces come from that. But when I kind of came to this, space, if you will, being more front stage, I like to call it, than behind the scenes, I realized how so many people were glorifying, they were calling it entrepreneurship, but it was really self-employment is what they were talking about. How you need to be the one to do the funnels and do the Facebook ads and show up for this and that. And I'm thinking, like, this doesn't make any sense in my brain, because all this is a job, that you're going to then work for, and you're not going to build an asset. So when I started out, I looked at it completely different. Like, I wanted to build an asset that I could sell on the other end of it. And most people don't realize that that's what building a business is or can be all about. But 85% of all businesses will never sell. 85% of all entrepreneurs will never exit. And it's really because they didn't do a few key things in the beginning. And so to me, it's more about, making sure people are aware of that. If someone wants to be self-employed and you just love what you do and you want to do it for yourself, there is nothing wrong with that. I don't glorify being a founder or glorify being a business owner. It's just know what you're building. Know that you're either building a job that you show up for and you can get paid handsomely for it and not report to someone and take off when you want and work from the beach and do that. But if you want to build an asset that you get paid for on your time after you're done trading your time for money, and you want to be part of that 15% that has a chance to exit, you need to build the business with a different intentionality. And the sooner you do it, the greater the chance you have of actually exiting.
Yeah, that is such a powerful takeaway. I mean, you said only 15% of people build a business that's sellable. Is that correct, the stat?
15% of all businesses ever started will ever exit or sell. They will just close or die with its owner because they haven't done the things to actually create an asset to either sell the shares, or they'll have an asset sell where they'll just be selling equipment because there's nothing proprietary there to the business to be able to sell. And so that's the really key thing is, one, do you want that? And if you do want that and you're having a realization while listening to this is like, holy crap, I haven't done that. I don't want a job. I do want to exit. Then there's a lot of things that you need to do in the beginning. It's basically what I walk entrepreneurs through is making sure that you're doing these things so it can be scalable, sustainable, and sellable in the end.
I am so excited to share with you the latest Montana Mastermind epic adventure. Now, I will say, due to many requests, we are doing a winter edition of the Montana Mastermind Epic Adventures. This means if you want to come skiing and snowboarding in Montana this upcoming March 2023, you can apply to come and kick it with me in person, shred some pow, and just be around a like-minded, happy, hustling, badass entrepreneurs who are all making over six figures, who are heart-centered, and who actually care about infusing passion, purpose, and a positive impact into their daily existence. We have so many cool things lined up. In addition to just skiing and snowboarding on amazing mountain Montana runs, we are going to be soaking at thermal hot springs. We are going to be doing some ice fishing and hiking and campfires and all sorts of cool activities. We're staying at a mountain mansion that is absolutely stunning. We have a professional chef who's going to be cooking up delicious, just amazing meals. And we have business masterminding going on where we're going to just work through your adversities and your challenges, as well as share other people's wins and your wins so that we can all learn from the collective wisdom. Just having fun, mixing business with pleasure, all in the beautiful Montana wilderness. I got to say, I love me some masterminds, and this one is going to be epic. So if you want in, apply today at carriejack.com/Montana. And I will say, spots are very limited. We cannot take very many people in this winter edition. It's already got a lot of interest and a lot of people signed up. And it's going to be a small, intimate gathering. So if you want in, jump on it before 2023 ends, or before 2023 starts, rather. So jump on it, carriejack.com/Montana. And I hope to see you on the slopes in Montana soon. Peace and love, y'all. Let's get back to this episode. Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'm like in the process right now. I just want to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit for all the happy hustlers. I've specifically been building my business, The Happy Hustle, for entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs to create that blissful work-life balance. And inside my business, I have, the 10 alignments of being a happy hustler, my soul mapping framework to actually achieve that work-life balance, which a lot of people talk about it, but I actually have a system to do it. And I've done it for myself and others who have implemented it. Now, where I'm pivoting is to the B2B model to do exactly what Candy's talking about, create IP or a business that I can license or even potentially sell down the road. So this is interesting because I'd love to use myself as a quick case study when you're talking about like the structure of a business, because this is, I think, where maybe you can get burned in the past or in the future if you don't set it up properly the first time. Do you recommend starting, let's say you're an influencer or a content creator, will you? And you have some type of IP that you could create a scalable entity around. Do you recommend like building a whole new structured LLC and then, you know, leveraging that IP underneath that? Is that how you recommend the entity structure?
So it depends on where someone is, right? If you currently have a job and you have another business already, and now you're trying to create IP or something proprietary, it's always great to have that IP, what's proprietary, live in its own separate holding company, if you will, because then there's so many tax advantages and ways that you can separate them, and they can rent and lease and license off of each other. And so that's a level 10 conversation that I think might be too much for here. But really the most important parts when you want to build something that is scalable and that maybe you have an intention to exit, one, you got to build it with that intent. And it's really going to revolve around a few different things. It's going to revolve around people, making sure that you have people in your organization that are either providing the services or writing the contract, whatever your company or your business is. If you ever want it to be outside of you, you've got to get people around you. You got to get the right seats the right butts in the right seats. You got to make sure that you are focusing on your strengths as the entrepreneur and hiring all of the other weaknesses to fill those roles, making sure that your organizational chart is clear and knowing who does what. And I don't know who said this, but there's a quote that I've heard before that says the clue is that the who can't be you. So when you really want to scale with people, the who in your organization can't be you. So the goal is to constantly replace yourself in every role, every task, everything that you do. And what I see, especially early entrepreneurs, they have this controlitis disease where they think they can do it the best and that they're the ones that have to do it. And when you're in that frame of mind, just know that you're actually preventing yourself from scale. You're preventing yourself from growth, because the faster you can hire someone that can do it even 70 or 80% as well as you can. And I would offer that there's going to be people that can do it a heck of a lot better than you can. You just haven't found them yet. My goal was to hire every single person that in their role did their job better than I ever could do. And that's when you build a team. It's like the head coach of the 49ers doesn't try to find somebody that's a quarterback, but not as good as he was. Like, they want to find the best quarterback that plays the game, the best running back. Like, that's how you win Super Bowls. And if you want to be, and I don't even know sports, but that I can only relate it to business in that regard. But when it comes to team, but when you want to win the Super Bowl of business, if you will, and be part of that 15% that ever gets the ring, you've got to structure the business accordingly. Now, the first step is to deciding which role you are in the business. Are you actually the entrepreneur? So many times I work with entrepreneurs that are really self-employed, that are actually the talent. They're the artist. They're not the entrepreneur. But for some reason, social media has glamorized entrepreneurship, and everybody thinks that it's like a chip to wear, that's what they should be. And it's a lot of hats. It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of weight to carry. So if you don't enjoy it, kind of to your point, why hustle in some direction that you're going to hate your life? Like, that's not success. That's the opposite of success. That's not how you create a rich life. That's the opposite. So make sure that you enjoy the process. You may be the talent or the artist, and you have to surround yourself with a great entrepreneur, a great visionary, a great leader, a great manager or integrator role that can do systems and processes with your talent. Like, that's how you make magic happen. So I think the more that you open your mind to what's possible of how to create that machine that can generate income and revenue without you, or be okay that you have created a job and you're going to have a lot more control than you just trading time for money working for somewhere else. Like, just know what you're building and make sure that you're happy with the end game. That's the most important part.
Yeah, so true. I mean, you have to be really honest with yourself too. Like, yes. Are you right now, self-employed, or are you a business owner? Do you have time freedom, financial freedom, creative freedom, or are you, getting brand deals, which technically means you have a job for the brand? It's just like, that's one thing. A lot of my friends are like, oh, I love being an entrepreneur. I'm like, you're beholden to that brand deal. If you stop on the content machine, you're not going to get paid, and that's, I think you're right. It's been a misconception maybe that has been just propelled by social media. But I really think it's so important, this topic of, building with the end in mind and being very clear about what role you play in that vision. That's what I'm actually at top of mind for me with what I'm doing. Where do I really want to fit, and how can I, again, make sure that I have the lifestyle design a part of my intentional business building process? I know you've sold multiple companies and exited and you mentioned built a rich life, both with philanthropy and impact and yes, income is a part of it. And you have a book that you wrote called Wealth Habits, which is all about, how to actually make, money and the 6 ordinary steps to just achieve this extraordinary financial freedom. For, the happy hustlers, I highly recommend getting the book. But if we could just, high level, even 30,000 foot view, can you run through those 6 ordinary steps to create this financial freedom for us?
Yeah. So here's the other thing I noticed after coming online, if you will, and I'm using quotes if you're listening to this and not watching it. I noticed that everyone is looking for a magic bullet, a get rich quick, a hack, a fancy shiny thing. And here's the unfortunate thing. There's no secret to wealth. There's no secret to success. It's a very boring things done over time. But here's the beautiful part. Because they're boring and ordinary, anyone could do them, including a girl that grew up in a trailer on government assistance with 2 teenage parents. So anyone, it's here for you. Like, all it is it's kind of like understanding what you need to do and choosing not to do it. That's what I see people doing all the time, because they'd rather do something that's quicker, more fun, or sexier than just doing the things that we know that work. So building wealth is not that complicated. It's just like business, right? Business, how do we grow our business? If we're looking for growth, not scale, we either increase our revenue or decrease expenses. That's it. Personal finance is the same. You either make more, you spend less. And then the key is when you make more, spend less, you have more to invest to create more assets. That's the magic. Like, that's truly the magic bullet. And how do we do that? First, we need to grow our way to more wealth, because like we said in the beginning of this podcast, what's in here, the think and get rich, is only going to get you so far, but it is the first key piece. We got to change what's in your mind. And every single thing that anybody listening right here believes about money or wealth right now, like if you're triggered by this conversation, or you're like, I don't even like to talk about finances, it's because everything that you think right now has either been caught or taught from someone else in your environment, from your family, from society. It's time for you to decide what you think about money and wealth and to make a choice if you want to build it or not. And so the first step is really growing our way. Then it's learning. Like, self-education is key. How do you learn your way and learn these things that we're not taught? We're taught, states and capitals that we can Google. We're taught about algebra that 99% of us will never use again, unless we want to be a math teacher in high school. But like, we're never going to use it, right? But they don't teach us how to balance a bank account. They don't teach us how to reduce taxes. They don't teach us how to actually take your earned income, and instead of spending it, you take your earned income and you invest it. You invest in assets that produce dividends, then you take those dividends and that's what you spend. That one key thing, if you actually do that 10 seconds of what I just blurted out, and you do that for the rest of your life, you take your earned income You spend the least of it as you possibly can. You invest it into appreciating assets, not cars, not boats, not all of these fancy things people want to make the world think that they're successful and rich, but you do the quiet things that the wealth do, that you actually invest in assets that print you money. And then those dividends are able to be at a lower tax basis so that you get to keep more of what you make. You spend that money. That one key piece right there will change the trajectory of not just your own life, but your entire family for generations to come. But most people won't apply it because it's not sexy and fun. They'd rather wait to have some cool thing that they hear about on Instagram and try to do that because they feel being busy is being closer to success, as opposed to us doing what we know already works. Like, this isn't just me, my opinion, my life. I did 40 years of data research, did one of the largest studies of people that are net worth of $2 million or more to make sure what I believed to be true was actually true. And sure enough, it was. So the second step is learning. You got to learn all of that stuff because we're not taught it. And also realize that there is no shame in that. Like, you're not alone. So regardless of your circumstances, of where you grew up, what level of education, what family you came from, nobody knows this crap. So you have to learn it at some point. Like, we're all on the same bus together. It's just whether you get off at the next stop or you keep riding for the next 20 years, hoping that you get Social Security benefits when you're 65 and then wonder why you no longer have the lifestyle. So I feel like I got on a little rant there. I apologize. No. But that's the second habit, is learning your way.
So, and I mean, I love the rant. Keep it coming. I just want to recap it. So growing our way is, like, first and foremost, we got to focus on the mindset piece, right? Like, you have to make sure that I think you have to change your money story too, right? A lot of people have self-limiting shackles from early childhood wounds, and like you said, you're caught, not taught, right? What you believe about money. So you have to grow your way, then learn your way, really focus on where you can acquire knowledge to be more financially abundant, and just where to invest and how to balance your books and read a P&L, etc. Let's hear the third way.
So the third, it goes back to that simple principle. You earn more, spend less. So the third is earning your way to more wealth. How do you earn more money? And people think like maybe it's a raise in their job. Here's the deal. We talk about entrepreneurship all the time. Obviously, I've been an entrepreneur more of my life than I haven't been. And considering, 5 of those years was just learning how to read and write, like, far more of my life has been an entrepreneur. But I don't glorify the journey. It's not for everyone. Some people aspire to be an entrepreneur and they actually enjoy their job, and they realize if you could just switch what you're doing and you can take the money that you're making from your job and earn more on the side, use that money that you're making on the side to invest, which is the next one on investing more, your way to more wealth. But if you can do that, you can still make a lot of money and retire rich. Like, there's different ways to do it. What I don't like are people who speak in such general ways with no context. It's like, not everybody gets rich just by owning a business. I know of people that tout they have 7-figure or 8-figure businesses, but they don't make anything. They're broke. They rent their house on the beach that they show you on Instagram. They just bought a brand new depreciating asset, which was a fancy car, to show you that they're rich. Meanwhile, they're making payments at 8% interest. So what you see, the smoke, the mirrors, isn't always really showing you the truth. So make sure, if you love your job and you have a great position, you may be able to earn more by doing some things on the side. And in the book, I basically talk about how to sell services, how to sell yourself, how to sell your stuff. Like, sometimes we have assets that there's apps now that we can sell that are just sitting here that we can make money from. You can salvage things. Like, it's amazing the ways, again, this is from my super blue collar background. I watched my dad go to, landmines and junk salvage yards and sell things that he got for free. And he'd walk away with thousands of dollars. So there's all kinds of ways that you can do that. And so it's really about earning. And if you have a business, I really break down the 4 ways that you can grow your business revenue immediately today. And it really takes down all of the flashy things that you hear, and it just breaks them down into these 4 things. You acquire a new customer, have an existing customer buy from you more frequently, have an existing customer spend more or raise your prices, and when to do each and how is really another piece. And then from there, we talk about saving your way to more wealth. How do you save money? People we're not even taught that. Like, oftentimes we're taught to want through marketing the new Louis bag or the shiny Ferrari, but what about investing in the Louis stock? What about investing in the car motor that you like, or the fancy thing that you all of a sudden want that everybody wants? I personally would rather get paid every single time I see my friends buying something than me actually buying it and carrying it. So it's a different way to view things. And so we talk about saving through taxes, reducing your monthly expenses, how to do it so that you can do the 5th habit, which is invest more, which we need your money to make more money, or you'll always be trading time for it. So ways to retire early, ways to retire rich, ways to not continually trade time for money, and how to create more assets. And since I've been doing real estate investing since I was 21 years old, starting with my first foreclosure, it was $23,000, which was the same price as the car I was going to go buy. I instead bought the foreclosure. The car wouldn't be worth more than $4,000. The foreclosure has now done 10, 20x and cash flowed for 20 years. So it talks a lot about that, playing the long game and how to trade instant gratification for long-term gains with investing, because compound interest is our greatest life's force multiplier, whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's relationships. So we break all that down. And then the last one is giving. It's contribution. It's, it's a huge piece for me. I created a nonprofit when I was 26 after I accomplished all the goals and all the things and realized, oh my gosh, is this all there is? Like, I climbed out of the situation I was in. I broke through all of these generational things, and like, this is it. And so it talks a lot about my story there, and why contribution, not just from some fluffy thing, but actually science and data, why it's truly key part of not just, building wealth. If you do it to just build wealth, you've totally missed the mark. Like, if you buy the book because you just want to acquire a bunch of things, like, don't buy the book. Seriously, like, you're going to miss the whole point. It's about building a rich life. And part of that is why we're here. And we're here to give. We're here to contribute beyond ourselves. If we're always looking at what we're going to get, we're never going to be fulfilled and happy. So I didn't want to miss that key pillar in the book, and that's the last habit.
Wow, I love it. I mean, the secret to living is giving, right? As Tony talks about.
True.
And, these are so powerful. These, 6 ordinary steps, but they are simple but not easy, right? Like, you have to actually implement it. Don't just take what Candy's saying and just let it go in one year and out the other. You got to actually implement it for your own situation. I want to run through them again. So you have growing your way, learning your way, earning your way, saving your way, investing your way, and then giving your way to wealth. And I highly recommend picking up a copy. You can go to candyvalentino.com, right, to pick up the book. You also, if you're listening to this as the episode drops, you have something super cool going on. Talk to us about this live workshop you're doing.
Yeah, so on Wednesday, January 18th, if you're listening to it before this, we're doing a live, it's virtual, so you can attend it anywhere, but it's actually me live teaching in person, just basically the in-depth version of the how-to, right? Because a lot of information we can hear and we can get, but how does this really apply to me, where I am right now with what I have? Do you have debt? Do you have any investments? Like, do you need to make more? Are you overspending? These are all things, depending on where you are, may need to be addressed first before we take some of these actions. So we're really going to dive deep into this workshop and just kind of break it all down for everyone. I have a super simple framework that everyone can follow depending on where they are. But you can find all that out at candyvalentino.com. It's $47. I want it to be available for everyone. And it's going to be live. There's an option to, ask Q&A and things like that. And also just to touch on my whole book, the only reason I can come on these podcasts and tell people to buy it is because it all is being donated to charity. So all the proceeds for my book goes to several nonprofits that I'm involved in. I even talk about them in the back of the book. So not only will you be getting the information, learning, and being able to earn more, but you'll also be contributing by buying the book as well.
Wow, I love that. I mean, that's super amazing that you're giving all the proceeds away. And you know, I just want to urge the happy hustlers to take action. You know, like, just go to Candy Valentino's website and we have it all linked up, and either get the book or go to the workshop, but do something with this information so that a year doesn't go by and you're wishing you started, or 2 years or 10 years or 20 years. You know, the power of compounding interest, as you know, Darren Hardy talks about in The Compound Effect, one of my favorite books. It's like that is either working for you or against you right now, and you have to take action. Now, Candy, I do want to put you through the rapid fire round real quick, and then we'll wrap this interview up. This is where I just ask my guests random questions, and then you answer honestly, first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Favorite food, go.
Oh, that's such a tough one. See, this is the, I don't do well with these. Broccoli.
Oh, nice. Favorite movie?
Only because it's recent. 4 Christmases.
Nice. Favorite book?
I'd have to say Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill.
All right. Favorite workout?
Lifting. I'm a weight girl, so lifting weights.
What's your spirit animal?
I don't have one, but I love them all, so I would have to say dogs.
Spiritual happy hustle hack, how you connect to a higher power.
Every single morning before my feet hit the floor, I find 5 things that I'm grateful for. And so I recite those things, and then I do prayer right afterwards.
Love it. Best business advice?
Gosh. Know what you're building. Build to exit. Do not build a business that you wake up in 20 years realizing that you created a job that you hate, or that you have golden handcuffs on and you're required to show up for. So no right or wrong answer. Just make sure that you're knowing what you're building and doing it with intention. And I just want to leave them with one more thing. There are only 4 to 5 times in our lifetime that we will get an opportunity to invest in a down economy and a down market. And what we're about to experience in this year will be one of those times. Don't sleep on it. Whether it's my book, my workshop, whether it's somebody else, doesn't matter to me, but get the information and make sure that it's from somebody who has actually built wealth through experience, not through shiny objects. Always make sure that you're paying attention to where somebody is on their journey before you listen to the information. Are they starting out in their journey? Are they in year 1 through 3? Where exactly are they? And make sure that you pay attention, but don't sleep on this opportunity. There are very few times that we can play down and let the little guy in to build more returns. And this is one of them.
Oh, I love it. Candy, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you. Thank you so much for sharing your love, your light, your wisdom, your unapologetic self, your wealth habits with the happy hustlers and myself. Final question. What does happy hustling mean to you?
It's me doing a life that you love, waking up every day, working hard, but enjoying the journey.
Mic drop. Candy Valentino, thanks for watching and listening, y'all. We are out. Peace and love.